How's it going, everybody? Onorato and Miller, Chris and Ash. We've got conference championship Sunday. We'll go back and look briefly at the college football national championship 4 days later. Don't want to rehash it too much, but look ahead to what the future may be for the college football playoff. Good things ahead, I think. We've got news on the NBA dunk contest, which involves a local basketball product. Hall of Fame voting, very interesting. Ichiro 1 vote shy. Who insists on being this stick in the mud with Jeter and Ichiro? We don't know. We will discuss that. And, of course, we have our picks for the conference championship games. The records are tight. Close.
This is Onorato and Miller, sponsored by Albany House.
Albany House, Marcella's, Bev's, Novice, and Performance Industrial with us each and every single week here on Onorato and Miller. Ash, for as exciting as a player Lamar Jackson is, and for as great of a season Derrick Henry had, this is the matchup I think everybody would agree we wanted in the AFC Championship game. The Bills and the Chiefs. It's the fourth time they will have met in the last 5 postseasons. Josh Allen has never beaten Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. He's had regular season success. I think 4-1 against Kansas City in the regular season, but 0-3 against the Chiefs. And so Buffalo now has to go to Arrowhead. It's a slim margin. We'll make our pick later in the show. But this is the matchup everybody wanted, right? The presumed MVP in Josh Allen against a guy who's vying for the title of greatest quarterback of all time.
Yeah, I think ultimately this is the matchup everyone wanted, but we also...
Would you rather see Baltimore?
No, we also got to see a matchup that I think a lot of people wanted in the top 2 MVP candidates when we got to see Lamar take on Josh Allen, Bills, Ravens. I think that was, again, as good a matchup as you're going to get in the divisional round. So we got that. Josh Allen moves on, and now we get what we've got in the last few seasons here and they've been good games. But yeah, Allen has to get, it'll be one of those things. Okay, regular season success means what? Nothing if you can't beat them in the playoffs. And it's a hard team to beat in the playoffs, but
especially at home.
Yep.
I picked Buffalo to miss the playoffs, and here they are on the verge of reaching their first Super Bowl since, 1990.
What did I do that was bad early this year? We have to go back. We should keep better records.
That show up.
Yeah, I know.
And yet, the deeper the season has gone, the more I felt like the Bills are going to do it this year. I just feel like I said last week, whoever wins between Buffalo and Baltimore, I think that team is your Super Bowl representative of the AFC. I just believe that this Chiefs team had lived dangerously so many times this year that Allen or Jackson would go into our Arrowhead and win the conference championship game. It ends up being Allen, and we'll find out, and we'll make our picks later in the show. But I'm excited for it's a 6:30 kick on Sunday.
You can see most of it.
I will hold out as long as I possibly can to see this game because I think it's going to be good. I also think it's going to be high scoring. It's a low over-under number 47.5. To me, that's low. I think both teams score, and so I would hit the over pretty good in that game. 47.5 in the NFC Championship game too. That one's maybe a little more difficult to figure out. Oh, the hair here.
I don't know, but I do it wrong every time too.
Is there Chiefs fatigue? Are you tired of the Chiefs winning? Are you tired of hearing about the Chiefs? Are you tired about talking about the Chiefs? You're tired of the Chiefs.
I'm not tired of the Chiefs.
I just asked, is there Chiefs fatigue?
There is.
Yes.
I'm not saying for me personally. There is in general.
Okay.
There is Chiefs fatigue. Some of it is Taylor Swift driven because I think other teams and fans of other teams are just like, okay, you're only talking about it for... No, they're not. They've been in 7 straight AFC Championship games. That's why there's Chiefs fatigue, because nobody likes a winner. I say it all the time. Like, I'm a Yankees fan. I understand why people don't like the Yankees. And I became that person when I got Patriots fatigue. And I was like, okay, I'd never liked the Patriots to begin with. In fact, I hated them. And now they're here every year. Yeah. Same thing. I don't dislike the Chiefs. I think Patrick Mahomes is as good as it gets. He is one of the greatest quarterbacks, if not the greatest quarterback of his generation. But yeah, I think people just get sick of the same old thing.
I think so too, until that team or a dominant team is gone. I've said I believe dynasties are good for sports because it creates a strong feeling on both sides, right? You end up having a small pocket in New England that is rabid Patriots. The rest of the country hates them.
Yep.
It happens with Notre Dame. It happens with the Cowboys. It happens with the Yankees. It's happening now with the Chiefs. Again, I believe it's good for the sport because when you just have mediocrity, people aren't drawn to it the same way. Now, I think it's going to be okay for the NFL if the Chiefs don't win on Sunday. But the idea of another Super Bowl with Kansas City, the storyline of Patrick Mahomes chasing Tom Brady's 7, this would be 4 for Mahomes if he can get it done. He'd be the first quarterback, and they'd be the first team to ever win 3 straight Super Bowls. Plus, now the luxury box edition of Caitlin Clark, like the NFL, as rabid of a fan base as the Buffalo Bills are, and they would still be good for the NFL. I think the NFL still wins if the Chiefs win on Sunday.
Is Caitlin Clark a guarantee? I think it was her birthday yesterday, the day before, whenever. Is she going to be in the box? Are they besties now? Is this what we're saying? Doesn't feel like a real bestie situation.
I would take her over Brittany Mahomes.
Well, sure. But it feels like a very forged bestie situation.
Yeah, maybe.
And here's the deal. We know Caitlin Clark is a lifelong Chiefs fan. She has something that Taylor Swift does not have. That is lifelong Chiefs fandom. So good for her. I'm sure she loves every second of being there. She's an athlete, so she appreciates sports in a way that Taylor Swift doesn't.
At the game on Sunday, don't you?
I guess.
I think Taylor Swift could probably get her in if she wanted to.
Connor McCaffrey gonna be sitting next to her?
I don't know, maybe. No, he's busy coaching.
Oh, right.
Yeah, at this point, it feels like Clark's got to be along for the ride the rest of the way.
Okay. Maybe she's the good luck charm.
In the NFC, history's on the line here. How about this? No rookie quarterback has ever started in a Super Bowl. The previous 5 rookie QBs to play in a conference championship game, 0-5. Jane Daniels can be the first with the Commanders, and this is a run.
Can you name any?
Nobody saw coming. I can. Brock Purdy, he got injured in that game.
Yep.
Ben Roethlisberger lost one.
Okay.
You'd have to give me a little more time to come up with the rest.
No, I just was wondering if there were any that flew off the top of your head, but Roethlisberger.
This is a run nobody saw coming, right? Daniels,
not this quickly.
Halfway through the season was like, okay, cool. This guy is going to be rookie of the year. He's having a terrific rookie season. And then it was, Commanders are going to make the playoffs. Commanders could win the division. Commanders won the wild card round.
And then
they
nobody
shocked people
nobody
in Detroit.
gave him a shot in Detroit.
What happens here? I picked them to cover.
I know.
What's happening here is their ability to score. This isn't a rookie quarterback, right, that is being lifted up by his defense or even his skill players around him. People out there, if you can name more
he's carrying them.
Than one other offensive player on Washington, I'll give you a check mark because the first guy is probably just going to be Terry McLaurin.
Correct.
Like, would you name Brian Robinson as the running
probably
back?
The second.
Would you know Zach Ertz is a tight end? So this is Daniel's team already as a rookie. This is his show. My heart is with Washington on Sunday at Philadelphia. That's for sure. I'll tell you where my head is later on in the show, but this has been a fun run.
Yeah, and for me, it's tough because I said to you, I think last weekend, it would be difficult for me to kind of like see and accept that Washington is good enough to get to the Super Bowl already. So I think it would feel a little bit strange. I also would feel really bad rooting against Jaden Daniels. It's easy to root against the Eagles for me. And I think it's even like I would root for the Chiefs over the Eagles and I would root for the Bills over the Eagles. I would have a hard time rooting against Jaden Daniels. Like if it were the Bills, I would feel bad about that. But it makes it, there are always storylines and you need somebody to root for or root against. if you don't have a team left. I don't have a team left, nor do you.
Now, after saying that I think the NFL wins if the Chiefs win on Sunday, America will revolt if we get Chiefs-Eagles again. It will. Now, the last time they played in a Super Bowl, it was a great game.
Mm-hmm.
But I am telling you, 90% of the country has no interest in that matchup.
Well, but and the problem is there 90% of America hates both teams, not hates one or the other. And that's when you get like that, when people say like, I hope the stadium falls down. Like, I hope nobody wins. Is there any way no one could win? That's generally the way it works. But that's a problem because that decreases viewership. At least if you get the Bills, I think a lot of people are like, okay, that's a nice story,
Yep.
Wide right so many times. It's kind of like the unlucky loser, but
Adam's a Cowboys fan.
Story.
He wants Dan Quinn. He was the defensive coordinator in Dallas. Look, they moved on because McCarthy was still the guy. We're going to push out Mike to
He's
move
so
in
likable.
Dan. He is.
He's so likable, and you can tell he reminds me a little bit of Dan Campbell, but not as crazy. His players genuinely love playing for him. Like, he was hugging the guys as they walked off the field. You could just tell that there was so much like joy and love there.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see.
Yeah. Sam's checking in. Good to have you on. Sam Bryan as well. Sam took the challenge of naming a commander. Austin Eckler has been banged up, hasn't performed the way that I thought he might with this team and elevate the run game a little bit. Go Bills.
We have a lot of Bills fans, friends.
Yeah, we sure do.
Friends who are Bills fans.
Yes. Yeah, sure. All right, let's do this too before we get to the first break of the show. NFL head coaching carousel. We have some clarity here. But as we do the show live on a Thursday night, there are still 4 openings. Here are the done deals. Patriots hire Mike Vrabel. No surprise. Bears win the Ben Johnson sweepstakes, and the Jets bring back their former first-round pick in 1994, Aaron Glenn, who is the DC in Detroit. It looks like the Cowboys are closing in on a deal with Brian Schottenheimer. We'll see where that goes. It looks like Liam Cohen is now connected again to the Jaguars. We'll see what happens there as Vegas continues its search as well. Your thoughts on the 3 guys who are now solidified?
Vrabel we hit a little bit on last week, so I'll skip over him. But this reminds me so much. Ben Johnson has been the hottest name in NFL coaching circles for the last 2 or 3 seasons now, and he hasn't bitten or taken whatever job offers he's gotten, if any. We don't really know. So
Washington.
Yeah. You knew that they were going to fly. And I laughed because I said to you, well, the Lions losing early helped jumpstart the coaching carousel much sooner. I think most people thought, we're going to have to wait till after the Super Bowl for things to start falling into place, for that first piece to start falling into place. Because until people know they can't get Ben Johnson, they're not going to hire somebody else probably. So I think this starts it much faster. But this reminds me of 2 years ago when, and here's where I think things get dicey, like your window is so small, when the Eagles got raided of their OC and DC in a second. And Gannon was in Arizona and Steichen went to the Colts, and you have to rebuild a coaching staff. This is what's going to happen for the Lions. Can they survive it or not? I love both hires, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, they might have to rebuild it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Philadelphia had to survive a year without those 2 guys. And they were still 10-1,
Mm-hmm.
the Eagles. It was just a collapse that late in the season and then a bad playoff performance. But then they rebuild it with Fangio and Moore. And so you're right. Dan Campbell's going to have to figure out how to replace both of these guys. Ben Johnson chose a historic franchise, but one that has not won in a long, long time, one that has not had a successful quarterback. I think in their franchise history, they never had a guy throw for 4,000 yards. Caleb do it this year. But he has chosen the quarterback, right, over the potential. I said Vegas is the best job in the league because of the potential, but Ben Johnson says, I'll work with the number 1 overall pick in Caleb Williams here.
And they have talent.
That's a tough division.
That is.
But so is the NFC West, right? And so at some point you're going to run into tough competition.
It's a tough division, but if you think like, here's the deal. The Lions underachieved this year. They were very, very injured. The pack didn't quite cut. So, like, you get what happens with Sam Darnold next year. Is he the quarterback? Is it J.J. McCarthy? Does he bounce back from injury? Every year is so different. Yep. I think it's interesting that he stayed in the division because it's kind of funny. He's going to have to go back and play Detroit twice.
He said something in his press conference, and I don't know if there's a connection, but it came with a wry smile. He said, look, it's going to be fun competing against great coaches like Dan Campbell and Kevin O'Connell, who are both worthy of Coach of the Year this year. And then he said, and I've enjoyed beating Matt LaFleur twice a year. And with a wry smile, and I thought, what's there? Maybe there's something there personally that they like each other and know each other, or
there's not,
or there's something
actually there. Yeah.
The Jets hire another defensive-minded head coach.
This is interesting to me. But
Rex Ryan, Todd Bowles, Robert Saleh, Aaron Glenn. You don't have a quarterback of the future.
Nope.
And I get it that Glenn's been a hot name now for a couple of years. But boy, it felt like this was the opportunity to go get somebody who can revamp your offense.
But they don't know what they have.
They have Garrett Wilson, who's a young star. They have Breece Hall, who's a young star. I want somebody to come in, figure out the quarterback situation and the offense. It's Glenn here. We'll see what he does at the offensive coordinator spot, but I don't know. I like Aaron Glenn a lot. Too. It just felt like, again, Jets, is Aaron Glenn a better head coach than Robert Saleh? Jets had a really good defense under Saleh. Yeah. They fire him, and the thing goes in the tank effectively. Is this a better option than Saleh?
No, but I think the energy is different. They're both defensive-minded coaches, but you can tell just from sideline demeanor. And maybe that's a coordinator thing that will change as a head coach. I still think he will be a higher energy, rah-rah player guy, Aaron Glenn, on the sidelines, more so than Saleh was.
Yeah. Yeah, and Sam points out, don't have a GM yet either. The Jets have been linked to a guy who was with the Lions organization, most recently now the Commanders. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see what happens with the Cowboys. We'll see what happens with the Raiders. Maybe it's Pete Carroll that Tom Brady is recruiting there, and maybe Liam Cohen ends up as the head coach in Jacksonville to pair with Trevor Lawrence after he really kind of brought Baker Mayfield back to life. All right, let's take a quick break here on Onorato and Miller. Andre Jackson Jr. will be part of NBA All-Star Weekend. One moron out there decided Ichiro Suzuki is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. And we'll look back at a special national championship run from Ohio State. Back in a minute.
Great memories start with Albany House. Amsterdam, Clifton Park, and High Adventure in Latham.
I'm Jeff Ukelek. I'm owner of Bev's, and we're a beverage center in upstate New York. You're just going to have that wow component when you come in, like, wow, look at this place. It's bright, it's clean, it has everything that I need. Consumer is king. Be able to provide them a friendly environment and a place to shop, no matter where they are, whether they're down here in Saratoga or whether they're up in Queensbury. You're always going to get the same experience when you shop at Bev's. At the end of the day, if you walk in your stores, you're going to see a lot of people that have a lot of pride.
And now, back to Onorato and Miller. Sponsored by Albany House.
I'm back on Onorato and Miller. I didn't understand it with Derek Jeter. I didn't understand it with Ken Griffey Jr. I certainly don't understand it with Ichiro Suzuki. We all knew that he would be a first ballot Hall of Famer. It was just a matter of, will he be a unanimous selection? He is not. One person at the Baseball Writers Association decided, I'm not voting for Ichiro Suzuki. I don't know how that happens. You look at that ballot, okay, which does not have a lot of worthy people, and say, you know what? I'm good on the guy who had more than 3,000 hits. I'm good on the guy who was a Gold Glover. I'm good on the guy who won Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same season.
Was everyone's favorite teammate. Like, it's just
stole bases, could hit for power if you needed him to, had the all-time record for most hits in a single season. He's not for me. And I understand that there always seems to be one person who maybe just wants to be different, maybe wants to gain a little bit of notoriety because of this. But as I said to one of our producers at the TV station, because they pointed out, well, you know, there's always one person, they said. And I said, but how do you know you're going to be the only one person? Like, there was one person that didn't vote for Jeter, one person that didn't vote for Ichiro. How do you know you're going to be the only one? Because if there are 5 of you, now you're not famous. Nobody really cares who you are. People are going to find out who this person is. And Ichiro says he wants to invite him over to the house, have a drink with him. So I don't understand. To me, when that person is revealed, you take their vote away. You clearly do not understand the game of baseball.
Or you think you are better than the game. Like,
fine, then you're out too.
You're putting yourself in front of the game of baseball.
Yes, you should not be voting for the Hall of Fame. And I'm maybe as critical as anybody when it comes to a Hall of Fame resume and career. Like, I like Billy Wagner, and he's the greatest left-handed reliever or closer of all time. So, okay, you put him in. Sabathia felt like a Hall of Famer. I don't know that he's an 83% kind of almost slam dunk guy in his first year, but Ichiro Suzuki, I can't imagine anybody sitting down looking at the ballot and saying, not going to vote for Ichiro. And by the way, only one player ever has been a unanimous selection, and it's Mariano Rivera. Yeah. And a great player. Yep. But the only person in that category, maybe because he is unquestionably the greatest ever at his position. Yeah. Okay. We can always argue somebody else, and like Willie Mays, great center fielder, but you could have somebody say, yeah, but Mickey Mantle, right? Like there's always going to be a little bit of an argument at every other position, I think, across baseball. Mo is unquestionably the greatest closer of all time.
For me, I'm not saying that a Hall of Famer is the greatest player at their position, the greatest singular player at their position. That's not what it's about.
Right.
It is one of the greatest.
Were they great?
Worthy of the Hall of Fame. Yeah. And that's where I get mad, because like, we're not comparing Ichiro to Jim Edmonds to Ken. Like, is Ichiro one of the greatest players you've ever seen? Statistically, is he one of the greatest players you've ever seen? Are you going to put him in at some point? Yes. Is he the best player on your ballot? Yes. You should check yes.
Now, what if we learn that this person who did not vote for Ichiro didn't vote for anybody? Does that make it better?
Yes.
Right. They just looked at the ballot and they said, there's nobody here that I would put in on first blush, right? So first year of eligibility. And I'm not going to vote for the A-Rods and who else is left from the steroid era? Clemens and Bonds are off and out. I'm not going to vote for those types of players. I agree. If Ichiro doesn't get a check mark next to his name, nobody should.
And I just have and I know this is the way it's arranged, so you can't do anything about it. I have trouble being like, it's my opinion that they're not a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I get it. Where it gets hard is like, it's not a one-shot deal. It's not well, if I don't put him in this time, he's got 9 more years to get in. And then if he doesn't get in then, he's probably still going to get in on some committee. That makes it hard, because now you can let them fall. But like, no offense to Andrew Jones. Sure. Ichiro is not Andrew Jones. Like, we're not comparing, like, he's not going to fall for 8 years and then be a maybe still at year 8, 9, and 10. They're not on the same playing field. So just put him in. I don't care if you think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer or not. If you think he's the best player on your ballot and he should be a Hall of Famer, then put him in.
And I've changed my tune on the is he a first ballot Hall of Famer or not? No, so I'm gonna wait. Like I've looked. I've always said, CC Sabathia, Hall of Famer or not? And if my answer is yes, I'm gonna vote for him the first time I see his name.
Yes.
So I'm not gonna say, I think CC's a Hall of Famer, but I don't think he's a first ballot. That to me, I'm over that narrative. Is somebody a first ballot Hall of Famer or not? And I get it that people still hold on to that a little bit. But
my thing is too, like, what happens when the next class comes in and there are 3 guys who blow your socks off? You know what I mean? Like, what? And I'm not saying that that's next year's class.
No, there's nobody.
But what happens if it is? You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then you're voting for 2 or 3 other guys, and he's your 4th guy. But now you're taking votes. Votes are going other places. Weird things happen, and now you're messing with someone's career and their Hall of Fame career. Don't leave it up to people who don't know what they're doing and don't respect it. It's more about the respect thing for me.
Sam says time to I don't know what change Sam wants to see.
Yeah, and I don't know either.
I would say you have to include former players. Include former players. These are people who played alongside or against. They understand the talent and commitment it takes to play this game. The one danger there is I could see
you get favoritism.
Too many guys getting in, and I'm a fan of keeping it a small select group. We've already put people in who I don't believe are fully deserving of being a Hall of Famer, but that's where we are, right? You can't have kick people out. So these are the 3 again. Sabathia, 251 career wins. I don't know that we'll see another 300 game winner. So Sabathia gets in. He's one of only 3 left-handed pitchers with more than 3,000 strikeouts in his career. He was known as just a big game pitcher. He won a Cy Young. He won a World Series with the Yankees. He had that just epic stretch with the Milwaukee Brewers where he said every 3 days, give me the ball. Give me the ball. We're trying to end a 26-year playoff drought or whatever. And even though I'm eligible for free agency after this year, I am willing to go out there on short rest over and over and over again. Brewers get to the playoffs then. Sabathia could hit. He was a big game pitcher. So, yes, I think he's deserving of being a Hall of Famer. And like I said it earlier, Billy Wagner is probably the greatest left-handed reliever, or at least closer. Adam asked, do we think there's going to be, or are we getting closer anyway, to a steroid era wing in Cooperstown? No, only because we don't really know. We know some of the offenders, but we don't know all of the offenders, right? So, like,
you know what I would do? I would be like, you have to admit. You have to admit
right.
it.
You want to get to Cooperstown?
Sign away on it. Yeah. You admit it. We'll then vote on you getting into the steroid wing. So, like, Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, Paul, whoever, sign it, and then you're in.
So what if you opened the wing, okay, you could just, for now, put in the guys who have admitted to it.
A-Rod, like
yes.
all those guys.
Even the guys who, like, kind of admitted but didn't publicly say, like, they apologized for previous transgressions and decisions made, right? Like, you'd have to put Canseco in for contributions to the game. Not that he had a Hall of Fame career, right? But you'd put Canseco in because, because of the book, Juice. Oh my gosh, look at you opened a lot of people's eyes to this now. You seem to be right about everything you put in the book. So we're gonna put you in contributions to the game. A-Rod gets in.
I think it's interesting.
Maybe you start messing with people and you put like Giambi in because he admitted. You're right. I don't know.
I think you still. Here's the deal: you have to admit it, sign off that you did it, and then you still allow the writers to vote. So but you tell them they admitted, now they're in. So like just based on their stats and forget that they used, are they in or are they not?
Yeah.
Ortiz,
who was on that list. Adam says would probably now admit it. He's already in.
Yeah, right. That'd be great. That'd be so great.
Yeah.
Like,
by the way,
hey,
that list I was on, that it was accurate. Yeah. I did test positive. Yeah. Okay. That's all I've got for baseball here.
Funny.
Although, well, you know what? Let's do this here. And Adam says, Braves signed Jerks and Profar, which Atlanta had to do something. The Phillies are making moves. The Mets are making moves. Go do something. And so they did. It's a big enough move to keep me quiet for now. Dodgers signed Sasaki. The payroll, Ash, is $300. This is a 23-year-old pitcher. The payroll is $375 million. It's 70 more than the second highest payroll in baseball, which is the Philadelphia Phillies. The Dodgers have spent $1.75 billion since and including the Ohtani signing. Half of that money's deferred. So not only the Dodgers getting some of the best players in baseball, they are working the system to be able to afford a collection of the best players in baseball.
And it's still impressive to be able to afford it.
Yes, it is.
Even deferred.
Right, $375 million payroll. We asked, is there Chiefs fatigue? Is there Dodgers fatigue? They've won 11 straight NL West titles. They've won two World Series in the last 5 years.
The thing. You can win as many titles as you want, but if you're not winning World Series every year.
So it's 2 of the last 5, but they were in a third. Okay. You say no Dodgers fatigue. I think baseball fans are getting a little angry here about how LA is able to continue to, and it's funny, it works both ways. Like
players are signing with them.
Fans get angry with the team, and then they get angry with the player too. Yeah. I can't believe, remember the Durant Warriors stuff? I can't believe, Blake Snell, you're joining the Dodgers now.
You're selling out, basically.
You want to win and get paid? Sign me up, right? Like they're offering the best contracts and the best opportunity to win. You're a fool to not do it.
Deferred money, all kinds of incentives.
One thing with baseball is it's such, I hate this, war of attrition, such a long regular season, and the playoffs are wonky, as we've witnessed in the last few years, that still none of this guarantees them
teams with a bye don't win.
Or just, that the quote-unquote best teams don't win, right?
Listen, if you can't win a series and you're the best team, forget it. You're not the best team. I'm out on that idea.
Yeah. It was Adam says his son. Yeah,
Yankees,
Tanner Scott just recently added to the bullpen in LA. I mean, they're absolutely stacked. Absolutely stacked. Yeah.
We'll see if they win.
We will see. All right, let's take a break here on Onorato and Miller. The mention of the best team doesn't always win leads me to what we saw Monday night at the national championship game. And I wonder, how do we feel about a two-loss team, a team that otherwise wouldn't have made the playoff if not for expansion this year? Do we feel like it's equivalent to maybe the best team not winning? Back right after this.
At Marcella's Appliance Center, our commitment is to you, providing essential appliances that families depend on for cooking, refrigeration, cleaning, and sanitation, plus appliance repair. You can have peace of mind that Marcella's is here for you today and every day, like we have been since 1957, helping you make the right choice with trusted brands like Whirlpool, Maytag, KitchenAid, and many more. Shop Marcella's Appliance Center in-store, online, or by phone. We're here for you.
The great thing about Novice is no matter who you are, they're going to put all the detail in the world into your brand. I feel like they have been a big part of my success, making me feel comfortable. This is Harrison Butker, Super Bowl champion kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. Claim your crown.
And now, back to Onorato and Miller. Sponsored by Albany House.
We went to that commercial break, and Ash said, I don't even know what that tease meant. Let me explain it.
I don't know at all.
So Ohio State finishes 14-2, and they win the national championship. And they did it in dominant fashion.
Blazing fashion.
Right? Like, clearly in the college football playoff, the Buckeyes were the best team. But as I've thought about it this week, it has reminded me of, are they the best team? Or are they a 6 seed, like the Giants a couple of times, getting into the NFL playoffs and getting hot at the right time? Are they an 88-win baseball team that wins the wild card and just gets hot at the right time, the way the Giants did, the way the Braves did not that long ago? Is that this Ohio State team? Did they just get hot at the right time? Or do we believe the best team in the sport won the national championship? I think back to August, I really like their chances to win the national championship. I said, look at all this talent. If Will Howard plays to his potential, they should be one of the top 2 teams in all of college football. But they weren't that over a 12-game regular season. So I'm not picking on them here. I'm just saying, with an expanded playoff, the way we've seen in the NFL and Major League Baseball, as the playoffs expand, you are bound to get teams from time to time that just get hot, that aren't, they're deserving to get in because they got in, but they maybe aren't viewed as the best team in the sport. They just went on a really good run, and kudos to them. You're forever a national champion, a World Series, a Super Bowl champ. But would we say they are unquestionably the best team in the sport? You hear it all the time, right, with baseball. Oh, the Giants, they won 88 games, or the Diamondbacks, they won 80-something games, they get to the World Series. The Giants run a couple years. Packers were a 6 seed when Rodgers did it. It happens. And people say, but they weren't the best team.
Who is better than them? That's my question. I think they were the best team. I ask you, who is better than them? I understand that you're going to say like they got hot, but they were 14-2. Mm-hmm. Alabama lost how many games? 5?
3.
4?
3.
Altogether?
3.
Including their bowl game?
Well, the bowl game doesn't count. I think the bowl game was 4.
Okay, the bowl game counts. They lost 2 games all season long.
Yeah.
Who's better than them?
Well, Oregon only lost 1.
I get it. And they got waxed by them.
I understand.
Waxed.
But if the argument is how many times
team.
did you lose, I'm viewing the picture of it all. And I would say to you, Oregon lost to an Ohio State team that we both agree is supremely talented and maybe the best team in the sport. Ohio State lost at Oregon and then lost to Michigan. Mm-hmm. Not a good team this year.
Lost to the number 1 seed in the tournament by 1 point.
Yep.
Continually got better like any good team does, and then waxed them in the playoff.
Well, I don't know if they continually got better because they lost the last game they played in the regular season to Michigan at home.
It's a rivalry game.
Oh,
I understand. Michigan was their only bad loss of the season.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
It was a close game. They didn't get beat. They didn't get beat by anyone by a lot. They lost 1 game they shouldn't have. Mm-hmm. They won the rest of the games that they should have won. They lost 1 game that it was a toss-up. It was one of the best games all year. And then they got better when they needed to. Like, I don't think I would call it getting hot. I think they were the best team and just did what they had to do. Nobody else was able to do it. So for me,
okay,
they've got the most talent.
If the Commanders win the Super Bowl, best team in the sport?
No, probably not.
Team that just got hot.
Probably not, but I'm going to say like the Lions may have been, but they were injured. So sometimes things happen.
Okay.
But I think those are 2 very different things.
Well, I think so too. I remember I said in August, I felt like Ohio State had the real potential to win a national championship. In August, I did not feel that way at all about the Washington Commanders.
I mean, and here's the deal. You've got freshmen all over the field who are figuring out how to play college football. Like, there is a very good reason for a team to get better as the season goes on. I think they're the best team.
And this is my point. With more expansion to any playoff, it increases the odds that the perceived best team in the sport is not going to win the championship. We have to be okay with that if we want more teams in any playoff.
Yeah. And you have to expect.
How many times does the NBA team, how many times does the team that wins the President's Trophy in the NHL win the Stanley Cup?
Almost never.
Right. So my question is, I'm trying to draw a line to title winner and best team. And if you're on the side of
number of wins, I don't necessarily care about number of wins as much as I care about like winning a hard division. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like you play in a tough division,
Okay.
those wins mean
tough
more.
conference. Maybe the Big Ten might be the best conference in all college football now.
Yeah, I get it. But the Big Ten is so big that you don't even play everyone.
Yeah.
So your strength of schedule in any given conference, there is so much more that goes into it than just like, hey, I won the most number of games like in a hockey season.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason that team doesn't always win, because they're not always the best team. They just won the most games.
Okay. Yeah, I just think it's funny to say it the way you just did, right? The team that wins the most games isn't the best team. Or the way I've kind of put it out here, you win a championship, you may not be the best team. Like clearly you are, and you are until you aren't. Right? The Lions were arguably the best team in football all year.
Yeah.
Until they weren't.
They had 30 injuries or something crazy. Like
still now after my poor tease, you understand my point.
Sort of. I still disagree with you, but
well, I don't care if you disagree with me. Just understand the point.
Oh yeah.
That it happens in other sports where a team gets hot and makes a run, and everybody looks around at one another and goes, "How'd that happen?"
Yeah, but I understand it more in a game like football than I do in baseball. I don't want to hear about if you're the best team, you can't lose series to teams that are worse than you. Mm-hmm. A game here and there, fine. Mm-hmm. But if you're the best team in baseball, you're not losing a 5-game series. You're not losing a 7-game series. Then you're not the best team. That's just what it comes down to. The Yankees were not the best team. They could not beat the Dodgers.
Yeah. This I found interesting here. Viewership for the semifinals and the national championship game down, I'll say significantly, right? Double digits percentage in both. The 17% drop in the semifinals is interesting. Last year, semifinal games were played on New Year's Day. Mm-hmm. Everybody's off from work. They're hungover. They're home. They're watching football. This year, it's like 2 weeks later. People got stuff going on. They're played on a Thursday and a Friday night.
And that's the thing. Football fans will watch, but everyone will watch on New Year's Day. Yeah, because you're with other people.
Okay, so should we look at these numbers and go, what's the problem here? Is it the date? Is it the expanded playoff? Is it too much of a good thing?
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it burnout?
There were blowouts.
And that's another thing. Like, is it burnout? Number one, burnout from the 3 weeks prior that we've already played football. But also really bad games in those weeks. Like, we did not have very competitive football in the first 2 rounds of the college football playoff. Does that turn people off? And are they just kind of like, oh God, by the time you get to what should be the good games, I don't even care anymore. We've had such bad football. Yeah. I'm done.
What's interesting, right, is that you get the two I'm going to play two sides of it. You get the two incredibly well-known programs in Ohio State and Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. And it felt like, oh, what a heavyweight fight for the national championship, and brands that everybody knows, and teams that have won multiple national championships, Heisman Trophy winners, all this stuff. But as we said on last week's show, is it too regionalized? Ohio and Indiana. For as national of a brand as Notre Dame is, mm-hmm. have we now eliminated interest from the West Coast and the Southeastern states, where they go, Ohio State, Notre Dame, I don't like either of these teams. I don't want to see either one of them win. I'm not really watching. I don't know. Or was there an assumption that it would be a blowout, and then when people saw Notre Dame scored on the opening drive, they're like, oh, let me put the TV on. Mm-hmm. I don't know. What do you think of this one here? The idea of injuries. You said it about the Lions, Notre Dame, which, again, I would never make the argument that Notre Dame was the best team in the sport this year. They lost to Northern Illinois and then won every other game on what many people would consider is a above average schedule. Yep. But significant injuries to the Irish on defense, in addition to the 3 starting offensive linemen in that game.
Yeah.
You said it can happen in the NFL, maybe, or football and any other sport. Hello.
Look at all this family getting in on the action. Yeah, I get it. For me, it's Notre Dame went out and put a drive together on the opening drive.
They used up
very well.
They had in that drive.
Gassed themselves out and then couldn't score for the next 5 drives until the end of the game. So
there was some stat that following Notre Dame's opening touchdown drive, Ohio on the next 5 drives combined, Ohio State outgained Notre Dame like 381 to 38. I mean, it's hard to wrap your head around.
Riley Leonard went and puked on the sidelines after the opening drive
Carried the thing
of the national championship game. Yeah, because Herbie, as the drive was going on, actually before the drive even started, he said, I think he's going to carry it 15 to 20 times this game. That will be about right. At the end of the drive, he had it carried like 9 or 10, and he goes, I think he's going to blow that number out of the water. Yeah. But clearly took a toll.
Mm-hmm. Kev says it toast after that drive. Right, they needed halftime to get back, and when you get down 31, and look, they made it a one possession game. But I say this all the time in sports: you use so much energy and emotion just to get back into the game. It then becomes difficult to close the deal, and it also, when you get down 31-7, almost becomes easier to come back because you now play with reckless abandon, right? I'm not afraid to try any throw and squeeze it into spots because what do we have to lose kind of mentality, right?
My other thing that I said to you, though, too, after that opening drive, I said, this is going to sound terrible, but if you're going to give up points here, you need to make them work for it. And they didn't. They were big play, big play, big play. 3 minutes later, they're in the end zone or something close to that. And it was like, well, now the offense is back out on the field. That was too quick. Like, it's okay to give up points, but you got to make them go 12 plays, 15 play. Like, you got to make them put some play. It was like a 5-play drive or something crazy. Like, that's not enough. That doesn't do it. You put your offense back out there, and now they have no gas left.
I don't like to put up comments like this just because we never get them. But Gary says we're both awesome.
Thanks, Gary.
And we'll take it, Gary.
Also family, so
a
little bit biased.
The future of the playoff. Everybody wants to know, are we going to fix this thing or not? And it sounds like the seeding adjustment will happen next year. They can't expand it until 2026. So let's first touch on the seeding adjustment. Very simply said, there's no plan yet, but basically you're not going to get Boise and Arizona State. You're not going to get conference winners guaranteed a bye.
Top seed,
That is kind
of
the
guaranteed
the
in, you're not guaranteed a bye.
The 14-team expansion would have a 4-4-2-2 model, which is 4 in the Big Ten, 4 in the SEC, 2 to the ACC, and 2 to the Big 12.
What happens to Notre Dame?
Notre Dame, so they would save a spot for an independent or an independent and a non-power 4 like a Boise State, or 2 non-power 4s, right? So if Notre Dame loses 2 or 3 games and the committee says they don't belong in a 14-team field, you would then get Boise and UCF or whatever, right? So do we love that? I don't know. It's better than...
I mean, the seeding adjustment, I love.
Right. Yes. That we need. I don't think we need 2 more teams in this darn thing. Enough already. All right, let's take a break here. When we come back on Onorato and Miller, still have our picks for Conference Championship Sunday. Still have Dirty Difficult done as well. We're back right after this.
At Marcella's Appliance Center, our commitment is to you, providing essential appliances that families depend on for cooking, refrigeration, cleaning, and sanitation, plus appliance repair. You can have peace of mind that Marcella's is here for you today and every day, like we have been since 1957, helping you make the right choice with trusted brands like Whirlpool, Maytag, KitchenAid, and many more. Shop Marcella's Appliance Center in-store, online, or by phone. We're here for you.
Great memories start with Albany House. Amsterdam, Clifton Park, and High Adventure in Latham.
And now, back to Onorato and Miller. Sponsored by Albany House.
Do you get this way, Ash, when your team is eliminated from title contention or whatever? Do you say, okay, who cares? This is my brother. Says, for casual fans, teams knocked out before New Year's Day. No interest to last another 3
keep up
rounds.
Interest. It's not no interest, but yeah, a little bit more difficult, sure.
Yeah, and
my team's never involved, so I don't have that problem.
Hey, they had a nice season, 9-3.
They did have a nice season. They made it to a good bowl game,
and then they won the bowl game.
Yes.
10-3, 10 wins.
I don't know.
Boy, there's some hard-hitting analysis from an alum.
I'm starting to become more interested, but it just never feels like they're going to quite get there. So
last year we had Kevin Herter in the three-point shootout at NBA All-Star Weekend. This year we get Andre Jackson Jr., Amsterdam Albany Academy, UConn national champ, now in the dunk contest. You'll watch because of Andre. You would not have watched otherwise.
Correct. Yes. I also am watching, and I know it's going to sound super homerish. He's the greatest dunker I've ever seen live. So I think for people who...
You've been to an NBA game before or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean live as in like standing on the floor live. So the greatest dunker I've ever seen live. For people who don't know him, like the casual NBA fan, I think they will be potentially wowed or blown away by his dunking ability.
Even if you've been to an NBA game in person, there's the potential that he's still a better dunker than, like, even if you saw LeBron in person.
Yeah.
Andre Jackson Jr. can do things that a small percentage of the league can do, and that would include probably LeBron. Andre, his leaping ability is unbelievable.
Yep.
I think you're right. I think he can do some fun things.
But it sounds crazy to say, like, hey, a guy that has 4 points and 3 rebounds a game and he's going to blow you away, and we'll find out.
Harold Miner barely played for the Heat. He won 2 of these things. Yes, Sam, they are retiring Herter's jersey at Shen Monday night, I believe.
Boy,
is Monday the
27th.
It's Tuesday the 28th.
Okay.
I believe is the date on that.
Probably can't get in the building.
No, probably not. All right, before we get to our picks, we've got Dirty, Difficult, Done.
And now, Dirty, Difficult, and Done. Sponsored by Performance Industrial.
Bill Miller and his squad at Performance Industrial, never a job that's too dirty or too difficult for them to get it done. Ash?
Now, usually I make fun of you for this stuff because you're the one who's like a cranky old man, like, oh, I don't.
Am I?
I think so.
Wow.
For me, I laugh at myself because I'm like, oh, I'm getting to that age where I'm like, oh, I don't really know. Listen, I know who Kendrick Lamar is.
Sure.
I'm not sure if you played a song of his that I could be like, hey, that's Kendrick Lamar.
Huh?
I know the name SZA. I don't know if I could name a song. This is when you know you're getting old. Yeah. When you're like, oh God, I don't even know the halftime singers or performers. I thought Fitty, Eminem, Mary J.
Dre.
I was gonna say Jay-Z. That was like the greatest halftime show ever. And now my parents hated that. And now I'm quickly becoming my parents.
It all happens to us at some point, doesn't it? I'm done with, maybe this makes me cranky old man. I'm done with Jimmy Butler's antics here. Look, we all understand you want a trade. We understand you're unhappy that the Heat did not give you an extension this season.
But now he's like stomping his feet. And
we understand you don't maybe believe this is your best opportunity to continue to win at age 35. But you are now, and I love Jimmy Butler because what a success story he has. But he was a problem in Minnesota. Everybody thought it was Tibbs. Look at what Tibbs is doing with the Knicks. Now he's a problem in Miami. At some point, it's you, man. What's the Taylor Swift? Hi, I'm the problem. It's me.
Good job.
This is you, Jimmy. And I loved him, and I love Pat Riley, and I have a thing for the Heat. But, man, this is just ridiculous. You're being suspended now again by the team, a 2-game suspension for missing a flight. He apparently told the team, hey, I'll meet you there. I'm going to fly on my own.
Doesn't even want to be around them.
I don't know how, and for as good of a player he is, we use the word great too much. For as good of a player he is, I don't know how another locker room and other teammates embrace him if he gets traded to Phoenix, although Durant's a weird dude. Maybe they're like, how do you accept him and say, now I trust you. I'll rely on you to help me win.
Because they say like, oh, you were in a bad situation, you wanted out, they wouldn't give it to you, so you were not the guy. Like,
this is the woman or the man saying, when we get married, he or she will change. They don't change. Yeah. Jimmy's not going to change. As soon as he's unhappy, it's bad.
They don't care. They just want to make him happy to add them to their team.
All right, let's get to our picks here, unless I'm missing something here. Well, Sam says no interest in the halftime show. You're right.
I'm not sure what that means.
I don't know either.
I mean, I know what that means, but
yeah. But in relation to the Super Bowl halftime show?
Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
Our picks last week, Kansas City, Washington. I was on Philly. I was on Buffalo. We both had Notre Dame. The records here.
Not great.
They're any better.
I mean,
would take 6 and 7 games over 500.
I'm about to lose it in the final week.
I've done that. I've had collapses against you in the past.
Don't beat me.
Only 3 games to go, as I said in my email to our great graphics guy, John Connon. Only 3 games to pick, which makes me sad
when it's over. Yeah,
I know. This has been fun because we've done okay. If it were miserable, we'd say
we're in a different pool, and I'm always like, well, who did I pick for the pod, Chris? I don't know. I'm looking it up on my phone. Oh my God, I lost that game for the pod. He's like, you care way too much about.
You do.
I like to beat you. I'm competitive,
and that's fine. But there are bigger things going on. Commanders, Eagles, NFC East division rivals. They played a wild game towards the end of the regular season where Jalen Hurts got injured, Kenny Pickett then got injured, and Daniels led Washington on a great end of the game-winning drive. I'm taking the Eagles here because I think Saquon Barkley has another big game against this team. He's got like 300 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns in his last 2 games against the Commanders. And 5.5 isn't enough for me to say Philly can't win this thing by 6 or 7 at home. The magical run for Washington ends maybe, and this is the spot where familiarity plays a role. And I think Vic Fangio will have his, albeit somewhat banged up defense, is ready to go against Jaden Daniels as possible.
I'm riding the wave. No moment has seemed too big for Jaden Daniels. No. I don't know that they're going to win, but I think it's a close game. Maybe they keep it within a field goal. Maybe they don't, but I'm riding it.
AFC Championship game, Bills at the Chiefs. Woo! I said it last week. Whoever wins Ravens-Bills is going to go to Arrowhead next week and win. With it. So give me Buffalo here, especially when I'm getting a 1.5.
It's probably going to be cold. The Bills are also good in the cold. Sure. This is going to be epic. I think it's going to be another great game. It's basically a pick 'em. Yeah, let's go. Bills to the Super Bowl.
And I think a high-scoring game. That over/under 47.5. I would go over.
So we could be tied at the end of the week, huh?
We could be tied at the end.
Oh no, we can't be.
A game behind.
Oh yeah.
We could be tied at the end of the week.
Yeah, you're right.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Onorato and Miller, enjoy NFL
Championship.
Conference Championship Sunday. We'll see you next week, everyone.